My name is Crystal West Edwards, and I'm a principal at the law firm Porzio, Bromberg, and Newman. I've been certified as an elder law attorney by the ABA accredited National Elder Law Foundation, and I can be reached at 973 889 4263. Again, that number is 973 889 4263. We know that these are very, very challenging and stressful times for most Americans, but particularly for seniors, for their families, and for their caregivers. One question that I get often is, how do we deal with either visiting our loved one, admitting our loved one, or transitioning our loved one from a nursing home setting? And so while there are a number of care settings available for seniors to receive long-term care, our focus during this discussion is primarily to nursing homes, just in the sense that it is the highest level of care that anyone could receive. So when we're talking about how to deal with a nursing home admission right now, nursing home admissions are very challenging. The primary challenge is that tours are not readily available. So if you want to go look at a new apartment and you're not sure whether you want the 2-bedroom or the 3-bedroom to see which one has enough space for you, your stuff, and your family, you take a tour. The same concept exists for nursing homes. However, with the COVID crisis, facilities are not permitting most of the public or even family members of its residents to come on site to view or tour the facility. So we've got to look at technology and virtual means to accomplish that goal. One of them would be the websites of the facilities that you're interested in. Most of them will have a 360 tour, a 360 view of the facility. To the extent that that's not available, certainly one of the representatives in an admissions office would be more than happy to take you on a one-to-one virtual tour if that were the case, except that they're not going to be able to go into patient rooms, but certainly can show you some of the general aspects of the facility and the options that are available. A tour, though, is not everything. Just as the old saying goes, you never want to judge a book by its cover. And so one of the ways to really get a sense of the potential facility or admission that you're considering is to do two things. One, ask the facility for a reference. Ask them for 1, 2, 3, however many references you would like of families whose loved ones are either presently there or were there within a short period of time, so that you can get a sense of how families felt about the care that their loved one received while they were there. The other option, and the most ironclad option, but certainly an option that has a cost associated with it, would be to consider hiring a geriatric care manager. Geriatric care managers are able to speak to facilities with medical speak, with technical speak. What is it that your loved one will need, and whether or not the facility that you're looking at is really appropriate in order to provide that level of care for them. They can also speak to reputation in a way that even myself as an elder law attorney is unable to do. I judge facilities based on their business office and how nice people are when they're asking my clients for money. But that's not the most important consideration when you're looking at a hospital admission. So what's the patient to staff ratio? How many home health aides or medical assistants are available to assist the nursing staff? Are they responsive? What's the average call time when a patient hits a patient call bell? Things like that, a geriatric care manager would be able to speak to much more regularly and have a much more educated discussion about it. So then the next question is, well, what if my loved one is already in a facility? They're already in a nursing home. How do I advocate for them the way I used to when I can't physically be there? And that is a challenge. That is probably one of the most stressful pieces of this COVID crisis as it relates to people who are living in facilities, particularly in nursing homes. Advocacy becomes a struggle. Up until a few weeks ago, The social workers at many facilities were able to facilitate you seeing your loved ones by electronic means. You'd schedule a FaceTime call with mom at 4 o'clock, and the supervisor or the social worker at the facility would make sure that mom's iPad is turned on and is ready for you to make that call at 5 o'clock. Well, that option is no longer, primarily because even though facilities in New Jersey have restricted the visits that people from the outside can do with patients that are inside, they are also restricting the amount of staff inside the building that are going in and out of specific patient rooms. So there are a few options at this point, but there aren't very many. The first option would be to give a call to that very supervisor, that very social worker who was available to you prior to the COVID crisis, and ask them to arrange for a scheduled call. That may not be a scheduled call with your loved one, but would be a scheduled call with someone on the care team at the facility. The purpose of that would be for you to get an overview of how the night went, how the morning has been going, and if there's anything that mom or dad or your loved one may need that you could be able to provide, if not physically, remotely. Is it that they are out of their favorite candy, that peppermint candy that they love to eat right before bed? An Amazon delivery will accomplish that. And something as little as making sure that mom or dad has a peppermint can really be life-changing in how they feel about being in a facility incapable of really having one-to-one engagement with their loved ones. The saying goes that the squeaky wheel gets the oil. The problem with COVID is that right now in nursing homes, everyone is squeaky. Everyone is squeaking at the same time, in the same way, and is pulling on the same resources. So to the extent that anything can be automated in a way that Monday at 10 a.m. is your touch base with the care team, Wednesday at 3 o'clock is your touch base with the care team, I think would go a long way. The other thing that is really important during these times, especially when you have family that's all over the country potentially that would really like to see or speak to your loved one, when it comes to interfacing with a care team, the biggest takeaway to me is going to be to have a delegate, one person that the facility can reach out to and speak to and give those updates to, who can then take that information and disseminate it to family. Imagine if you are the nurse manager who's got staff that have to supervise a number of patients in a facility, and every patient has 3 kids who are calling twice a week. The calls could really rack up. And so what are ways that we can make it convenient, but also helpful for the family in maneuvering these times? I know that having a family delegate isn't always an option, especially for families who may or may not have the same close-knit relationship as others do, but it's well worth a try. When it comes to video conferencing has been a phenomenal way to connect family members across the country, and also to be able to see and speak to your loved ones who are in facilities and are not able to leave for visits or to have visitors come on site to see them. In that circumstance, to the extent that their health condition supports the ability to speak with multiple people at the same time, I certainly would encourage it. Having a video call with the 3 kids all at the same time is a much lighter responsibility on any staff who would be helping you facilitate that call than to facilitate 3 separate calls to accomplish the same goal. The last question that I get, and one of the things that I certainly would like to talk about today, is whether or not it's appropriate even to be in a facility, and is there a way to transition home during these times? The answer for that is twofold. Sometimes it is worthwhile to consider a transition home, but in other times, a transition home is not appropriate, is not safe, and financially isn't able to even be accomplished. So let's break that down a little bit. If your loved one needs to go to a facility or is in one right now and you're concerned about the rate that COVID is spreading among care facilities and wanting your loved one to be just discharged, the first thing that I would say is it's time to reach out to a home health aide. The first question before you can even, or excuse me, a home health agency. The first question before you can even look at a transition is whether or not it is safe and suitable for your family member. Let's take, for example, a loved one who lives or has a home where the bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen are all on the second floor. And there's really no space on the lower level to accommodate a hospital bed or a side bedpan or any type of care environment on that lower level. Before we're going to consider a transition home, the first question that I would want to know is if there was a fire, would mom or dad safely be able to maneuver the steps from the second floor to the first floor to get out of the home? These are things that home health agencies are able to troubleshoot and triage for you by phone and even by video conferencing in seeing the home and seeing the types of accommodations that would be necessary. In addition to a home health agency, geriatric care managers are also very helpful in making some of those assessments and overall making some of those decisions for you. But let's say that you're in a nursing home setting because 24/7 care is needed. 24/7 care, as many people know, in an in-home setting can be very, very expensive, as can nursing homes. The difference between the two of them financially is that if you're in a nursing home in New Jersey receiving long-term care and you run out of money, there are government benefits available to subsidize that level of care that you may need. And that cost would really be covered with all except a contribution from you based on what your monthly income may be. On the other hand, for home health care in New Jersey, 24/7 care is not an option when it comes to having a subsidy from the federal and state government by way of the Medicaid program. In our great state, most people that are receiving home health care are going to get somewhere between 20 to 40 hours, 40 hours being really the highest level of care that one could expect to receive, a senior that is, for a home care arrangement in the state. So if your loved one has a dementia unit, requires a locked unit in a facility, and is getting 24/7 care, a transition home will only partially solve your problem. Assuming that the home is safe, assuming that there's a care plan in place to make sure that services that are needed get delivered, financially being able to pay for those expenses is only going to be partial. If 40 hours a week are covered by the Medicaid program, then the family would have to look at other ways to provide care for the hours that the agency is not providing services. And that can be a very stressful conversation to have. But with all of these various transitions, options, and advocacy points of things to think about as you maneuver these very uncertain times dealing with COVID and having loved ones who are aging, we at Porzio are here to help and are certainly available to answer any questions that you may have. Again, my name is Crystal West Edwards, and my telephone number is 973-889-4263.